tribal or regional.
Good morning and thanks for joining us. We are now going to be looking at the front pages of the newspapers this morning. Starting as usual with the Daily Trust, we have as the major headline a very interesting disclosure from the Customs Caesar yesterday. Customs sacks over 2,000 officers for corruption, and that was disclosed by Hamid Ali. Expresses concern over meeting $3 trillion target to raise $176 billion after total automation of operations. Justified tax increase on vehicles. Interesting issues there raised by the custom chief. You will find the details of those on page 5 when you pick up a copy of today's Daily Trust. We have there a very important picture there with the president in a handshake with the president of Siemens Energy, Dr. Christian Bruch, and members of his delegation. We have the president there, the chief of staff, and of course the finance minister. He hosted the delegation from Germany in continuation of talks around the partnership with Siemens to improve the power sector in Nigeria, power transmission especially. To other stories now on the front page, FG appeals judgment acquitting Kanu. That's on page 6. Strategic capital investment acquires Polaris Bank for 1.35 trillion. You'll find the details of that on page 27. And UK to elect new Prime Minister October 28th as Truss resigns. Interesting. Some Nigerians were saying that she touched the tiger's tail by raising issues around immigration. Well, whether that was targeted at Nigeria or not, I think it's a joke taken too far. Corruption high under Buni's committee, and that's according to Adamu. FG to privatize Ajaokuta Steel. This is according to the minister. And 10 burned to death as tanker explodes on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's another tragic event from yesterday. Siemens transformers will boost power supply from November. This is coming from President Muhammadu Buhari. These are the major offerings on the front page of the Daily Trust.
Let's take a look at some more stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there says 10.7 trillion budget deficit. Government may sell TBS, NIPPS, 25 key assets. The writers there state that no bidders yet. We have a register of assets, BPE. Federal government eyeing NNPC, value estimated at over 30 trillion naira. Government must be transparent in sale process, say experts. And then there's a picture there that shows you hashtag NSARS, youths demand justice, police tear gas protesters yesterday, and this happened yesterday at the plaza there in Lagos. You find other stories as well on the Punch newspaper this morning. We've lost our most valued crude oil buyers. This is according to the federal government. Amcon sells Polaris Bank 50 billion naira. And on page 32 on the Punch this morning, national carrier, domestic airlines reject Nigeria-Ethiopia deal. Well, that's quite a revelation. You'd find the details of that story on page 32 on the Punch newspaper. And then you see the story about Kanu, a flight risk. Federal government tells Supreme Court, and that story is on page 16. Inflation, Nigeria, others risk political instability, says IMF. 13 die in Ogun. Lagos crashes. FRSC blames night travel. And then you'd also see the story about Kogi gets first derivation allocation as oil-producing state. That story is on page 31 on the Punch this morning.
I'm moving on to This Nigeria. We have as the major headline the NMIC officials nabbed registering foreigners. As troops kill 48 terrorists, arrest 60 logistics suppliers in Northeast within 2 weeks. Inflation, local rice reaches record high of 37,000 per bag. I assume they're talking about the 50 kg bag. Acolytes for Wike as FG honors Rivers governor with infrastructure delivery award. And we have there the picture of the UK Prime Minister. Broken trust leads to Truss exit 45 days after as UK Prime Minister. And to other stories, release Nnamdi Kanu Supreme Southeast senators urge Buhari, FG to appeal IPOB's leaders acquittal. We can meet 3 trillion 2020. We can't meet 3 trillion 2022 revenue target. That's according to the custom boss. And NSAS police tear gas memorial participant release arrested protesters. These are the major stories on the front page of this Nigeria.
On the Nigerian News Direct, Tinubu Shetima candidacy, reconciliation of Oshibajo, Amechi, other presidential aspirants still in progress. This is according to Adamu. Says rot debt of 7.5 billion inherited from Buni-led CECPC. Buhari plans inauguration of APC presidential campaign cancel today to unveil Tinubu's manifesto policy document. You'd find other stories as well on the Nigerian News Direct. Kogi receives first derivation allocation as oil-producing state as Governor Yahya Bello assures Kogi of transparency, accountability. Lagos was bankrupt in 1999 before Tinubu received our economy. This is according to Babajide Sanwo-Olu. You'd find other stories as well. Ex-Lagos Attorney General Olashupo Shasori arraigned by EFCC. Over 2,000 corrupt customs officers sacked. Colonel Hamid Ali. Pantami woos state governors on broadband. Obaseki shares experience. These are the major stories on the Nigerian News Direct.
And moving on quickly to First News newspaper. Of course, we have stories we have read from other platforms making it big there, but looking at other stories on the front page, Labour Party under attack, National Chairman raises alarm. And you also have other stories there, PDP belt toilets with 12 million realized from farms. And more than 40 NSAS protesters still languishing in jail, Amnesty International. 2023, Alegbeshola Nnamani Kalu dropped from Tinubu's campaign team. And I can't speak on Oshibajo Lawa Amechi's commitments to Tinubu's project. This is coming from Adamu. And we apologize to Nigerians. We are not sure if this government has met their expectations. And that is coming from Aisha Buhari. These are some of the stories on the front page of First News.
On the Nation newspaper this morning, federal government halts deduction of CBN's loans to states. NEC raises panel to review budget support repayment terms. Stop your blackmail, speakers tell Omoagege. Nigeria to launch Africa's first payment card in January. You'll find other stories on page 7 and page 42. CBN AMCON announced sale of Polaris Bank. 45 days after UK Prime Minister Truss quits. And US plans $1 million humanitarian aid for flood victims. And you see a very disturbing pictorial there that shows you 10 burnt to death in Lagos Ibadan Expressway explosion. APC presidential aspirants back Tinubu, says Adamu. Stage set for campaign council launch. Candidate unveils action plan today. These are some of the major stories on The Nation.
And moving on to Blueprint, Blueprint decided to pitch tent with what's happening with colonial masters. British Prime Minister Truss quit, says I cannot deliver on mandate. Boris Johnson, Kemi Badenoch, Grant, Sharps may return. New Prime Ministers to emerge October 28. And we have other stories there. 2022, Oshiba Ajola and Amechi in full support of Tinubu Adamu. Buhari inaugurates APC PCC today. Tinubu unveils manifesto, security, healthcare, economy to top agenda. Aisha Buhari apologizes to Nigerians. And we also have Wike has drawn battle line with the North, says Arewa Group. You find that on page 17. Police recover rifle 8.4 million from 20-year-old kidnapper in Bauchi. And FCT 2023 budget allocation drops from 59 billion to 13.5 billion. That's a radical drop. 64% of Nigerian children lack access to early childhood education, and this is coming from budget. These are some of the major stories making it to the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. And looking at Business Day next, we have as the major story 5 traps awaiting Nigeria's next president. It will be interesting to look at those pitfalls that whoever emerges would have to confront. And to other story on the front page, importers dump salvage cars as custom tariff bites. And we saw, of course, Colonel Ahmed Ali justifying those increases. Explainer, why gap between official parallel FS rate is widening. I think this would also interest Nigerians a lot, especially manufacturers. Will NLNG force majeure affect cooking gas? You want to know the details of that, you turn to page 21 of Business Day. And finally, we have UK Prime Minister's election set for October 28 as Truss quits. These are the major stories on the front pages of the newspaper, and that would be all on the papers that we are looking at this morning. We'll take a quick breather. When we return, our analyst will be ready to serve you details from the front page. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Welcome back. We now have joining us in the studio, as usual, our analyst who will be giving us greater insight into the issues that made it to the front pages this morning. The editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdullah. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure.
The papers, are towing different lines this morning with a lot of interesting developments in the polity, starting with the Daily Trust. The custom boss yesterday at the State House. Haven't not been there for a while, for keen watchers of activities. We know he's a close associate of the president. Showed up yesterday, and of the several things he had to address with the correspondent, he disclosed that over 2,000 officers have been sacked in the last 7 years. What do you make of this revelation from the custom Caesar?
Okay, the figure is big. Maybe in 2,000 corrupt custom officers sacked. That's in the last 7 years.
That's right. It's an average of 400.
Yeah, exactly.
Or one officer per day, if you like.
Per day. So it's not surprising, but I think the only aspect that maybe he didn't say the story is where are they now? Just like the police is doing, it's not enough to publicly, like the police IG is doing. I like it here, particularly those police officers who went out of their way, to extort, and harass Nigerians. Yes. But after sacking them, where are they now? I hope they are not the same people. Yesterday there was a fake EFCC operative trying to extort Belgium. So we don't know. Are they still people still manning our entry points, Lagos, you know, and some other, if you go to Ilela and whatever. I think going forward, even the civil service, this number is not much compared to what the head of the federation is saying, you know. Particularly if you look at the number and the years, like you said, maybe an average of one per day in the last 7 years that he holds sway of the customs boss. Have they been handed over to EFCC, to ICPC rather? I think that should be the way. It is not enough to commit a crime in uniform or while using a public office, but there should be repercussion apart from dishonorable exit from the service. They should be handed over to ICPC so that they should languish in jail. That will serve as a deterrent to me. You understand me? Maybe again, if you take all the our military and paramilitary, and they give their figure, the figure will be mind-boggling. You know.
Interesting.
Oh, these are quite very interesting angles. We'd love to take more details, but we have so much more to look at. Another issue that seemed to be everywhere on the papers, and I'm sure you've seen reactions as well on social media, is about the resignation of the UK Prime Minister, or I'll say the former UK Prime Minister now. And we're also seeing that there's going to be another election in October 28. Did this come to you as a shock, when you saw that news?
Not really. Madam Liz Truss, I think she was the shortest serving UK premier in modern history, because she spent less than 2 months, just 44 or 45 days. But another thing, her ascension to that office, as well as her exit, is historic.
Interesting.
Yeah, the last premier to be appointed by Queen Elizabeth, she superintended the funeral of the Queen. So, the longest serving Queen.
Right.
And, coincidentally, she became the shortest serving UK premier. And another thing, King Charles, will appoint the first UK premier by month end, I don't know. Maybe that will be maybe in modern history, how many days has he spent? Even before his inauguration, official inauguration, he will appoint a UK premier. That's a side. More importantly, when you watch the telly day before yesterday, you'll know that the end has come. And that's the beauty of the parliamentary democracy. You can't make do with a despot or an incompetent leader for that long. If, for instance, we have not adopted this very expensive presidential system from the US, there are many people who have rose to power that wouldn't have done so if we have remained with our parliamentary system. The attitude of some presidential aides, like the Hamid Ali you mentioned, to the parliament shouldn't have been so if we are doing a parliamentary system. You can't be bigger than the parliament, no. So I think apart from we will spend less, for you to be a minister,
You have to be in the parliament.
you have to first test your electoral value in your constituency. You have to be appointed to elected to the parliament before you got elected as a minister of this, and that. So even as the prime minister, who is the leader of the country, you can't just become an isolated despot. You believe that you are this, you are. There are certain, I don't want to mention names. There are people who are either in power today or who have been in power in the past that wouldn't have smelled that office. A parliamentary system been in place. So it's the beauty of democracy. You know, you have to go there. You have to defend every policy. You don't need to wait for some aides that will be writing essays. No, it is tit for tat. You see how the British Parliament, and you know that arrogance. You feel that yes, you are not reachable. You know, even some ministers, the way they behave, they will be summoned by the Parliament and they will ignore it and no consequence. You understand? If we have the parliamentary system, I think that's what's playing out from the UK. You understand?
Interesting. I wish we would delve a bit more, but it's interesting to also see that Boris Johnson is making a launch back to relevance and telling them that he's the only one who can save them from a disgrace come October 28th. But we keep tabs on development, and I hope, like Nuruddin Abdallah said, that Nigerian politicians, or if you like, the Nigerian system, will learn some vital lessons. On the Punch newspaper this morning, if our producers can put up that paper for our viewers at home to see, two contrasting and interesting development. On the one hand, the Minister of Finance is saying we have lost our most valued crude oil buyers. And on the other hand, in the same front page, Kogi State gets first derivation allocation, and we saw how the governor was in celebrative mood. Should we, anybody, I mean, in Nigeria of today, with the reality we have seen in the world, be excited about oil discovery, given the direction that the world is moving, divesting heavily from that natural resource? What's your take on these two stories?
You know, before I came to the studio, I had a virtual discussion with a friend who is from the state. I saw him celebrating. I just laughed. Because, you know, okay, two things. It's mere politics. How many oil wells are in Kogi State? So what I did to that, my friend, was I picked a story. The last allocation, the 13% derivation allocation to the 8 oil producing states. You know, we have Delta, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Rivers. When you say oil producing states, these are the ones. Cross River is out because of the Supreme Court judgment. Abia, for all my friends from Kogi, Abia is an oil producing state. Anambra is an oil producing state.
So it's Lagos.
I didn't see Lagos in that
list.
But the one that have been there, Ondo and Edo.
Yeah.
I told him, you know, he was celebrating. I said, look at the figures. Delta that got the highest, they share about 80-something billion, 13% derivation. The last allocation, during the last allocation that was made public. Delta got about 27 billion, amounting to about over 30% of the total allocation. Guess what? The least was Anambra, with less than 500 million.
Wow.
Yes.
And yet
exactly. Anambra is an oil producing state. So, Kogi will be within that.
I mean, just for the jokes, they are probably excited because when you see Wike move around with designers and private jets and go to London for meeting, and he sits atop oil producing state, shouldn't you be excited that?
No, they should look at Anambra. They should look at Abia. They are oil producing state in that. More importantly, I think, you know, the celebratory mood in Kogi is as a result of the government, the state government's recent attitudes. That just poor, attitude towards some investors in the state. You know what is happening with Dangote? That multi-billion naira business, the man is giving him 48 hours, you know, to pack. And what's happening with Bua? And you know how Bua ended the discussion. You know, yeah, you gave us land 10 years ago. We couldn't even access the land because the land can only be accessed through waters. No single infrastructure as agreed. So in fact, if you go there, you'll be kidnapped. You know, and so on and so forth. So this issue of oil, and if you look at the press statement by the Commissioner of Information, he didn't mention how much the state got at the 13% derivation. It will be from the range of Abia. Edo has about 3-point-something billion. Ondo has about 4-point-something billion. But Anambra has less than $500 million naira. So Kogi cannot move above that. So congratulations to my friend from Kogi.
That's quite very interesting. There are quite a number of stories, you know, on our dailies this morning. But on the Blueprint newspaper, there's this particular one I would like for you to comment on. We're seeing that Aisha Buhari is apologizing to Nigerians. She's saying we don't know if this government has met the people's expectations. What do you think she's driving at here?
It's an election season. You remember before 2019 elections, you remember that her interview, she was even telling Nigerians that she may likely not vote for the president. And you remember the president's reaction from Germany, the other room, what else? She doesn't need to tell people that. Nigerians are wiser. Why am I saying so? Because, you know, despite the gullibility of Nigerians, you know, because, you know, Nigerians have been overpowered by poverty, you know, so they can be forced to tolerate everything, and that's how the people in power think. Not only that, she will be the least to speak on that direction. Not because she has any executive power, but because of the way they flounce, the arrogant way they do things. You remember, when ASU was on strike, her in-law graduated from a foreign university. And they didn't even feel that it is insensitive, because the people that voted for them, their kids, their wards are at home for 6 months for an offense that is not theirs. And she was celebrating, she plastered the social media with those pictures. That's insensitive. But unfortunately, like I told you, Nigeria seems to have been overpowered by some poverty-induced policies, I want to so they can be forced to tolerate everything. Look at it now. There is a women presidential campaign council, and women are falling over themselves to get mentioned in that list. We should ask, in the last 7 years, what have you done? You have said this on this day. You have said this on this day. Where are we now? We don't fact check. We don't ask questions. You know, we just grovel over their feet. Like I said, you know, Nigerians, unfortunately, we seem to have been conquered. So what they tell us all manner of rubbish. Again, so that's why she's not the good ambassador to be telling us whether the Buhari's administration has achieved something or just felt out of it. Because in her own way, she's grossly insensitive to the plight of Nigerians. I mentioned the recent example. For 8 months, our sisters, our wives, our brothers are at home, because we have no option to even take them to private university where you'll be paying 4 million, 3 million per annum. But she was there in the UK celebrating her in-law. Do it low-key, please. But she was plastered the pictures on social media. That is grossly
interesting. You never get a second chance to become a first lady if you like. Okay. It reminds it reminds me of the comments of Bishop Kuka when he says Nigerians suffer from selective or collective amnesia, hysteria. Another interesting story for us would be the one on the Nigerian News Direct, where the party chairman of APC was saying a reconciliation of Shibajo Amechi other presidential aspirants still in progress. Says Roth, debt of 7.5 billion inherited from Buni-led committee. Buhari plans, well, they had been denying that there were crises. Now it is coming to the fore. The sacking of the directors, Roth around 7.5 billion in the party. And now you're saying reconciliation is ongoing. What do you make of these conflicting information in the public space?
I don't know. You know, before Abdullahi Adamu was appointed as PDP APC national chairman, we thought that in the APC fold, you know, he's the most experienced. He has since 1972 during the local government election, he has contested almost every election that took place thereafter. But unfortunately, maybe because of age and what have you, it seems that the experience we thought that the man has, you know, it's not there. Because from one problem
to the other.
To that. And you know, problems that are needless, that you can do without. Months to a very tense election with a ruling party that has an outgoing president. Maybe they don't remember. They don't forget. They don't remember that.
Yeah.
Outgoing president with a same-faith ticket in a very divided Nigeria, then you are bringing party issues. You know, he has issues with his NWC members. That was why when he endorsed Senate President Ahmed Lawal, the next hour, 8 members of the NWC disowned him. Mr. Chairman, you are on your own. And now he's going back to Buni. This is unnecessary. It is unnecessary. The elections have just picked up. Concentrate on the elections. Align yourself with the candidate. So Abdullah Adamu is fighting so many battles, you understand, that are unnecessary. It is clear now with what he said that he is not in good time with Tinubu. He has been appeased by being appointed as vice chairman, deputy chairman of the PCC, which is a figurehead position. Something. And now he's going back to Buni. He sacked the directors at the federal at the APC secretariat, and now he's accusing Buni committee of corruption. Less than 4 months, less than 3 months to a national election with an outgoing president. Then something is significantly wrong. The claims that likely the presidential candidate or some people want him even out cannot be ruled out, because if this thing goes this way, then certainly I think maybe they'll say that the guy who can take care of us, if they left there, he will rob the pot before.
Well, interesting. It appears every of the party, you know, seem to have their own fair share of crisis, you know, upon crisis, if you like. Before we let you go, a quick one there. 10 burned to death as tanker explode on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Another tragedy. I mean, in Abuja, I've not seen that on any of the front pages yesterday. A scrap metal vehicle, you know, practically disrupted movement on the outbound, on the inbound Abuja lane from Kefi yesterday. Isn't there anything we can do to check the kind of calamity that arises from this situation?
Very quick one. If you have a functional rail system, you don't need to be
hauling.
Yeah, you don't need to be trucking your inflammables along the routes. You can use the rail, exactly. And in the absence of that, you need to have a concrete policy. The roads, terribly bad. You mentioned Abuja yesterday. You remember Kaduna in the last couple of weeks. For 7 days, if you go there, you can spend 8 hours. Remember? And Lagos-Ibadan Expressway had
the last couple of days too.
You know, for this, because this has become a recurring. So it seems that our options, I think we have exhausted them. The rail is not there. Even the old rail that used to carry our stuff from Lagos to Kano has broken down because of the functional vandalism. Take this road, this AKK project, you know those pipes?
Yeah.
in the last couple of months, before the Railway Corporation stopped the old system, the Kano, they have been ferried through that, but now they are on the road.
Yeah.
So that was why, the roads are out of shape. We used to have potholes, but now what we have on the roads are boreholes and craters.
That's horrible.
Yeah, a car can get stuck into it. It used to be potholes, but now they are boreholes. So it's a really serious issue that I hope the incoming administration, whether PDP, APC, okay, and which order again? And the 16 orders.
Okay.
Well, they have quite a lot of work to do then.
A lot of work to do, but the rail is the key. It is the only way of avoiding the tragedy where people lose their life. Poverty. The moment a tanker, you remember what happened in Anpa not long ago?
Right,
it's more than 20 people burnt gas to death. A car just slides. People, because of poverty and illiteracy, they will mass to it, scooping. And before you know it, they don't know the danger.
Yeah.
And you see, so all these things, we need real leaders with focus, who know what they are doing to address this issue. Rail is the key. Why do you carry those scrap? It's a very heavy.
It is metal.
If you see it on the road, at any given time,
feels like it can just give way.
Yeah, exactly. It can give way, and it's very disastrous.
It is.
So if you have a rail, functional rail system, all these things can be ferried through the rail at very low cost and at no consequence to other motorists.
Interesting developments there. Analysis and perspectives coming from guests. The editor, 21st Century Chronicle, Malam Nuruddin Abdallah. Thank you very much for showing up again. You are more consistent than the power holding company of Nigeria, I can tell you for sure. And we hope to see you again when we call. And we hope you have a decent week ahead. This is where we draw the curtain on the newspaper review. We will see you at the